Welcome, welcome, everybody. I see people start to come into the room, so we are going to get started in just a minute, but we want to let everyone in that's been waiting. Give it another minute or so. All right, I think we'll get started here. I know we have a packed agenda, so we need every minute um, for this session. So, welcome everybody today for our last Brunch with Brousseau, turning AP insights into real impact. We are super excited for you guys to join us today. My name is Tara Pollack. I am part of the marketing team here at OnPhase, and I'm excited to have Mark with us once again. Mark, want to introduce yourself?
Thank you so much, Tara, and thank you all for joining us today.
All right. So before we dive into our agenda, I know there's quite a bit of you that are on the call today that are unfamiliar with OnPhase. So before we talk a little bit about OnPhase, I want to explain to you where OnPhase fits in, right? Where are we today? It's August 2025. So where is AP automation sitting? So let's go back a little bit in time here. So think about decades ago. Remember where teams started doing everything manually, right? Everything was paper-based. Email approvals, manually tracking spreadsheets, then came automation. Scanning, OCR, things got better in our AP world, right? They got faster, but not exactly done, right? And now the market added AI, right? We have smarter systems, but we still have the same problem. There's always something left for your team to fix. So some teams are still buried in approvals. Others have started integrating AI, but there's still something to clean up, right? The mismatched invoices, duplicate invoices, but there's a new frontier emerging where automation isn't partial, it's fully complete. And your team doesn't have to spend hours and hours each month fixing errors. So wherever you are on this timeline, that final leap, that's where OnPhase fits in. But here's where everybody else missed. Most automation and AI tools are built to eliminate some manual work, right? But it's actually about eliminating 100% of your team's involvement in transactional busy work. So your team can focus on other strategic priorities. It's definitely something we're going to talk about today. So many vendors will tell you that they automate everything, even with AI. But here's the truth. They'll stop around 80% and they'll leave your team still holding the bag for the hardest parts: exception handling, complex approvals, and reconciliation. So that's where the errors happen, right? And that's where the costs add up. So OnPhase's unique approach to AI is what helps teams finish the job. And if you haven't heard of OnPhase, we've been around for about 25 years, working with thousands of organizations you see here on the screen across multiple industries, listening, learning, and we are the leading provider of intelligent AI-powered automation. And our mission is really simple. It's to give organizations back their most valuable resource, and that's time. When we talk about giving you back time, we also understand that security isn't just a feature, especially in 2025, right? It's foundational. So in today's digital landscape, true automation must come with enterprise security built in. Our cloud-based SaaS solution is backed with AWS. We're not just SOC 1, SOC 2, PCI, and even HIPAA compliant. So this allows us to truly meet the automation needs of the Office of the CFO. Now let's talk about the Office of the CFO. It runs on documents, right? So most finance teams leverage 2 to 3 different providers handling all the processes you see under capture, automate, and pay on the screen. And what happens here is it results in triple the cost, complexity, and errors. And so at OnPhase, we're able to offer our customers a way to capture their data, automate their processes, and pay their suppliers in one AI-powered automation platform. And that's what we're here to talk about today, and how AP is transforming in the world and discovering some insights. And with that, I'll hand this off to Mark to talk about our agenda.
Thank you so much, Tara. That sets us up perfectly for today's discussion. You know, Tara, I have been around long enough to remember when AP was viewed as the quintessential back office function. We were the people in the basement with the hand-me-down office furniture, the off-brand coffee, and the copier that didn't work so well. People only called accounts payable when something went wrong. It was kind of like the people who work the baggage claim stand at the airport, right? Who wants that job? The only time somebody comes up is when something's gone wrong. Well, that was AP for years and years. But that started to change. And interestingly, it started to change during the last financial crisis here in the United States back in 2008. Corporate America was caught with its proverbial pants down. We exacerbated the financial credit crisis because we didn't know where things stood with our cash and our spending. CFOs swore that they would never allow that to happen again. If only they could get at the information that flowed through their AP departments, they reasoned, well, we could have better managed the credit crisis. And so they started to invest in accounts payable to start providing tools to unlock all that information that for years was trapped in file cabinets and cardboard bankers' boxes. And today, accounts payable is really starting to be the beneficiary of this shift in focus. And in many ways, it is starting with that office of the CFO that Tara was just talking about. The CFO's job is changing, right? They're no longer a financial scorekeeper. They're a financial strategist. And who is it that they're going to ask to help them do their job? Well, it's going to be you, accounts payable. The problem is that for many of you, you're so burdened with manual repetitive tasks that you don't have the time to be able to unlock or leverage that information that flows through your department. The good news is there's strategies for unlocking that information, for turning AP not just into a strategic powerhouse, but an information hub for the organization. And that's what we're going to discuss today. We're going to talk about the shifting role of accounts payable. We'll show you the AP visibility gap that many of you are probably experiencing, why it matters that you fix it right now. We'll show you how AP can be an enabler of real-time insights. I'm going to provide you with a step-by-step roadmap for turning your AP department into a strategic powerhouse. And because I'm from Philadelphia, and I always think the worst, we're going to provide you with some strategies for overcoming the inevitable roadblocks. But before we do any of that, we're going to start with a poll question, which is now displayed on your screen. I want to know which best describes your AP department's current role in your organization. What best describes AP's current role in your organization? Are you primarily transactional, focused on processing invoices and payments? Are you operational with some reporting capabilities? Are you becoming a strategic partner, providing regular insights to the organization? Would you say you're already a strategic partner, providing regular insights across the enterprise? Or are you not so sure? You're still trying to define your role. Take a moment to respond to the poll question now displayed on your screen, and we'll discuss the results in just a moment. Tara, when OnPhase is talking to AP departments, how many of them are craving to become more strategic in their organization? Is that really what's behind a lot of the automation initiatives that OnPhase is working on today?
Yeah, it's interesting because a lot of it depends on the user you're talking to, right? You have the end user, you have the decision maker, and a lot of times the leader, but that is a common thread, right? Because everyone knows there's a better way and they want it, right? But it's like in order to get there, there's so many steps for them, right? There's alignment, there's research, there's investment, there's change management. So the appetite is definitely there. And that's really what we see that a lot of customers they're in all different parts of their journey, right? You'd be surprised, a lot of companies are still very traditional manual work that we see.
Yeah, today only 9% of all AP departments are what we describe as fully automated, right?
Mhm.
Electronic, touch-free processing of all or most of the transactions they receive, only 9%. What's interesting is that we still have about 18% of all AP departments are completely manual, completely paper-based. Now that leaves that big swath in the middle of being partially or largely automated. And the question becomes, is that good enough? And that really is at the heart of unlocking those insights today. Let's take a look at how it is our attendees responded to our poll question. We asked you which best describes AP's current role in your organization. 44% of you admit you're primarily transactional. You're focused on invoice and payment processing. You are heads down. Don't feel too bad. 84% of the typical accounts payable practitioner's day is wasted on manual repetitive tasks like keying invoice data, shuffling paper and emails, fixing errors and mistakes, and responding to supplier inquiries. 84% of the typical AP practitioner's day. And what's most disheartening is even AP managers, the people who run the department, by and large, they spend more time every day on transaction processing than on managerial tasks like staff development and staff retention. 39% of you identified that you're operational with some reporting capabilities. You probably deployed some sort of a data capture solution that can help make it easier for you to puke out some kind of reports that the organization can use. 11% of you are taking your first steps to becoming a strategic powerhouse. You're providing some regular insights. You're no doubt looking to do more. 6% of you are still trying to find your way. Well, hopefully, at the end of today's webinar, we'll provide you with some insights that will help accelerate your organization's journey to becoming that information hub. And that really is what we're all about today because the role of accounts payable is shifting. We're no longer just a cost of doing business, a necessary evil, tactical, a drain on company resources. Today, accounts payable departments of all sizes have a new reality. We're evolving. And along with that, the expectations have never been higher. And I dare say that if we continue to have some economic turbulence over the next several quarters, you can only expect that those expectations will be heightened. The reality is AP is no longer a back office cost center. It's no longer about paying the bills, if that's what it ever was all about. Today, AP is becoming a central hub for critical financial data. Think about all the information that resides in those pieces of paper and PDFs that we receive in our AP departments, right? It gives us insights into our cash flows. It tells us about our corporate spending, who we're buying from, what we're buying, and who's buying it. It's also given us some insights into potential risks and liabilities. And today, corporate leaders recognize that, and they expect AP to unlock that information and to help contribute to strategic decision making in the organization. Goes back to that financial credit crisis. Take the recent discussion about shifting global trade policies. Don't worry, this isn't turning into a political discussion, folks. But one of the big questions that came up when we started talking about tariffs is who are we spending our money with? What is the potential implications of this? What will it cost us if these tariffs went through? Well, in many organizations that rely on manual and paper-based processes, that information was hard to discern. And what happens is you get caught flat footed. It's only after things have been implemented that you're actually able to understand the true implications. Imagine, imagine, if you will, if you were able to instantly be able to tell exactly what your organization's exposure was to a tariff in a particular country. And if you were able to understand exactly what your exposure was for a particular product category that might have a tariff and another one that might not. That's the power of the insights we're talking about today. And you better believe that these insights matter more now than ever before. There's some big forces that are really driving an urgency to rethink the way it is that AP departments operate. First and foremost among them is economic uncertainty. When economic times are good, we tend to get kind of sloppy when it comes to taking a look at our cash conversion cycle. But the confluence of high interest rates and now fluctuating interest rates and high inflation and variable trade policies and even supply chain disruption we've experienced over the past several quarters has all come together to create this stew of economic uncertainty. And while I'm not here to predict whether we're in for a soft landing, a hard landing, the status quo, I'll leave that to the politicians or and economists. The reality is businesses need to be ready for anything. And economic uncertainty is going to be a big issue for AP leaders. A recent study by the Institute of Finance and Management found that 27% of all CFOs are preparing for the possibility of an economic downturn. In that same study, they found that 40% of AP leaders are concerned about the possibility of layoffs in their finance department. Now, this isn't a discussion about layoffs and job security. What this is we better believe that if the boss is concerned about economic uncertainty, that we need to too. We need to take steps to prepare for the possibility of a downturn and make sure we're able to provide the insights that the business is going to need. All the while, we're also facing some pretty significant cost control pressures. I keep hearing a lot of AP leaders tell me that they're hearing this unrelenting drumbeat of doing more with less. We don't talk as much these days about the staffing challenges we faced in the past several quarters, but the reality is they really haven't gone away. Today, it costs more to hire staff. It's harder to retain them in many cases. And businesses are reluctant in many cases to quickly fill some of those positions. So, what I hear from a lot of AP leaders is that they're telling me that when there's turnover in their department, they're not always able to fill those positions as quickly. In some cases, because they can't find the staff. In other cases, because the business doesn't want them to. And so this means that we've got to become more efficient than ever. And we all know that manual and semi-automated processes simply just don't scale too well. In many cases, we've got to hire staff, either full-time or temporary, to help us fill in those gaps. We're also seeing this dizzying acceleration of automation. Artificial intelligence is on the front page of every proverbial newspaper these days. But it's not just AI, it's also machine learning, natural language processing, robotic process automation, the e-invoicing, blockchain, you name it, it's all swirling in our finance departments at an increasingly rapid pace. And it's not just the number of technologies that could cause us to get dizzy, it's also the number of vendors who offer them and all the different approaches they take to automation. Making sense of it all, that could be hard even for the most tech savvy AP leader. And that can make it challenging to be able to sort out what strategy should I take. And on top of all of this, make no mistake about it, we've got to provide the business with real-time insights. And I'm not talking about Excel spreadsheets. If I did a survey of all of you and asked you how it is that you're currently providing reporting to your business, I'm sure the vast majority of you are relying on spreadsheets. And then others of you are pushing it off to your ERP. The problem is in either of those cases, that's not real-time AP insights. For instance, in the case of an ERP, think about everything that happens before that invoice ever gets posted to the ERP is ready to pay. Think for a moment about a spreadsheet. They're almost like a relic from the 1980s, right? I mean, the moment you hit save, the information's out of date. It's easy to corrupt a spreadsheet. In many cases, those pivot tables get outdated. And in other cases, we can't access a spreadsheet. For instance, Tara might store it on her laptop, which does me no good if I don't have access to it. So we've got to find ways to provide the business with real-time insights. But why is real-time so essential? Well, it goes back to those three other bullets. The economy is changing fast. The global political environment is changing fast. We've got cost control pressures. We've got accelerating technology. So we've got to find ways to instantly be able to tell the business where things stand with our spending, with our cash flows, and with our risks. And that brings us to our next poll question. which is now displayed on your screen. This time I want to know, what is your biggest barrier to AP visibility in your organization? What's your biggest barrier to AP visibility in your organization? Is it manual paper heavy processes? Is it disconnected or outdated AP and financial systems? Is it limited reporting and analytics? Is it a lack of stakeholder engagement? They just aren't using the tools? Or is it something else? Take a moment to respond to the poll question now displayed on your screen, and we'll discuss the results in just a moment. Tara, when OnPhase is talking to prospects, just how big an issue is manual and paper heavy processes when it comes to providing the reporting that the business needs out of AP?
Yeah, so I think what we really see with prospects is there are a lot of resistance to change, right? And a big part of what we help is the change management part through automation and really informing suppliers and everyone, even internally, right? The benefits of getting to the automated beyond like the paper, right? Because you can't even get to reporting and analytics and insights unless you have the accurate data, right? So if you're always having that missing 30, 20, 10, 5%, depends on the business, you can't see, you can't, it's not in the system, it's manual, all that stuff. You'll never get to the accuracy of the insights that honestly AP leaders need today.
Yeah, and it's not just being able to capture the data, it's also being able to
Mhm.
get at it, as you say. And a lot of organizations just don't have the level of integration that they need between their AP system and their accounting software or their ERP. How does OnPhase overcome that? How do you ensure that you have the connectivity you need to actually get at the information as you're prescribing?
Right. Yeah. So we make sure that we really provide like a full solution for any client. So really understanding, like to your point, the ERP and integrated in their process today, right? Like what does that look like today and what a future state could be? And what we go through is like this might change, right? This might be a process you do today, but here's a future state, and this is what you get from it. So we want to make sure there's no holes in the process, fragmented. And so it's the same old like people process tech, right? Like what do they have in place? What is the future kind of roadmap? Because there's a lot of other technology out there, right? To your point of like maybe it's sitting over here for payments, maybe it's over here, and really getting
Mhm.
that one like pane of glass that we say. Because again, you're not going to have the right insight unless you have it all complete.
Yeah, let's take a look at how our attendees responded to our poll question. We asked you, what's your biggest barrier to accounts payable visibility? 44% of you identified disconnected or outdated AP and financial systems. One third of you said limited reporting and analytics. You might have captured it, but you don't have the ability to serve up the information. 11% of you identified manual, paper heavy processes. So it sounds like in many cases, our organizations just simply have outdated technologies and not enough tools to be able to serve up the information. 11% of you said something else is holding you back. And if you're depending on spreadsheets, if you're depending on your ERP, you're going to have a lack of visibility into AP. So let's dig deeper into this AP visibility gap and what it is most of your peers are facing. According to the Institute of Finance and Management, there's really four big reasons that so many AP teams are operating in the dark. And the first is a lack of automation. In many cases, organizations simply don't capture the information they need to be able to serve it up in the back end. In many cases, information isn't captured. Captured information isn't correct. It's not complete. In many cases, information isn't timely. In many cases, systems are fragmented. And at the back end of this, all our decision makers don't have access to the variables they need to make our decisions. We exacerbate poor data capture processes by having fragmented systems. Even those of you who might have invested in whiz bang data capture solutions, in many cases, don't have the level of integration you need with your ERP and accounting software. And so what happens? Well, now we get into back and forth emails, rework, rekeying, In many cases, invoices can't be matched directly with POs and delivery receipts, and so we're manually matching. And all of this slows things down and creates data silos and data latency. And that makes it hard for us to ever get that single source of truth. What's more, other organizations are facing manual workflows, and this creates lots of missed opportunities for insight. If we're relying on emails to route invoices for approval, we simply don't know where things stand. Let's face it, folks, email wasn't built for sensitive financial processes like invoice processing. It doesn't provide segregation of duties. It doesn't offer systematic workflows. There's no stopping someone from inadvertently or intentionally sending an invoice to the wrong person. We don't know that the person received the email. We don't have visibility into the status of things. There's no audit trails of what actions were taken on an invoice that was sent via email. And there's no stopping someone from deleting an invoice ahead of our company's retention schedules. All of this makes it hard for us to know exactly where things stand in the process. And just imagine an environment where an invoice enters the organization through email at a remote site. You and AP have no visibility into that. And we all know those coworkers that conveniently hang on to an invoice until the most advantageous time, they believe, to submit that for approval. Now we don't really know what our company's liabilities are. And as our poll question suggested, many of us don't have the right reporting tools. Today, 40% of all AP departments rely on Excel spreadsheets as their primary reporting tool. It makes it hard to be able to track where things stand with our cash flows, with our corporate spending, and even our risks. What's more, we can never get at real-time data access. And like I said, the stakes are higher these days. Today, organizations demand to know instantly where things stand. This goes back to our consumer lives, right? Think about the way we buy things, and we want to instantly know that the purchase was made, where it stands in the shipping. Has the payment gone through and settled, and has something been delivered? Why can't we have this in our business lives? Well, today, without automation, data entry is going to lag activity. So many cases, we have to rely on someone to key enter information. In many cases, then that delay is going to get exacerbated by slow workflows. Today, it's taking longer for organizations to approve invoices now that we're working remotely. We can't just walk down the hall or across the office to Tara and say, hey, should we approve this? Now we've got to track her down. She's working at home in her pajamas, watching Jerry Springer, so we've got to wait for her to finally answer the phone. I am only kidding. Tara would never do that. Um, and what's more is we also have delays that create risk for cash flows and budget controls. There's always going to be that data latency. And so we're never in an environment with real-time visibility. And yet it's real-time data access that empowers decision making. So today we have this conundrum. While data is moving faster and there's more of it than ever, and while technology has the ability to capture it and manage it faster than ever, in many cases, our processes haven't kept up. And this has a big ripple effect on the way that our organizations are able to make decisions. In many cases, we have incomplete data, and that makes it hard to be able to accurately forecast our cash and our spending. In other cases, we have delayed insights that prevent timely corrective action. So we have bad forecasts or inaccurate forecasts, and now we have a lag that makes it even worse. And what's more, poor visibility makes it difficult to be able to interact with not only our stakeholders in our organization, but also our suppliers. Think for a moment about our forecasting here in the United States. Today, only 5% of all businesses can accurately forecast their cash. Only 5%. That's crazy. Well, the fact is that this goes back to those spreadsheets and those ERPs, those ERP reporting that we have. What's more, today, many organizations simply don't know where their money is being spent. A study recently done by the Institute in Finance and Management found that 75% of all businesses only have visibility into I'm sorry, I'm saying it all again. The majority of businesses only have visibility into only 75% of all their corporate spending. There you go, Tara. I got it right that time.
Yeah.
So while that sounds good, hey, I have visibility to 75% of all my spending. The reality is a lot different. I mean, think of it this way. If I said to you, hey, would you be okay if only 25% of all of the money my company spent was wasted or unmanaged? Would you be okay with that? You'd think I was nuts. And yet, this is the way that businesses, big and small, operate. Think about economic uncertainty for a minute, right? When we have an economic downturn, what's the first thing businesses do, right? They start to trim staff. And in many cases, you'll read in the newspaper that a business did a 5% across the board reduction in staff or spending. And you say, think about that. There were surely parts of that business that were operating well. And there were probably people who were caught up in those layoffs who were really good employees. But why did they just do it across the board? Well, the reason is because they don't know how well they're doing. They just don't have the visibility into the spending. And so what we need is we need a way to confidently be able to report on our data so that we can be able to make better decisions. It's not just some of the decisions we make that are wrong, it's also the opportunities that we miss as a result of this poor visibility. In many cases, we miss early payment discounts due to delays. Today, 70% of all suppliers are willing to accept an early payment discount or a discount in exchange for early payments. 70% of all businesses. Now, that's not to say they're going to take it every time. It just means that the vast majority of the suppliers you're doing business with will probably be willing to take a discount if you're willing to pay them early. The problem? Most of us take so darn long to get an invoice approved for payment that that window is closed. And in other cases, we don't know which invoices are floating through our system to be able to tell which suppliers are those that offer those lucrative discounts. And so we leave that money literally lying on the table. In other cases, we simply don't know about opportunities to consolidate our spending. This is a big one. If you're operating in a manual or semi-automated environment, this is probably one of the most underrated benefits of automating accounts payable, especially if you have dispersed operations. In many cases, businesses with remote sites are doing business with the same vendors, but they don't always know what the costs are or the contractual arrangements are with those vendors across those locations. And it's not until you automate, you can aggregate all of those invoices into one place that you have the aha. Wait a second. Why is Tupelo spending more than Pittsburgh for the same service from the same vendor? And those are the types of visibility that you'll be able to get by aggregating those invoices into one platform. What's more, visibility also gives us the ability to detect fraud patterns earlier. Today, fraud is at an all-time high. And in many cases, the fraud is allowed to slip through the cracks because we just simply don't have visibility into what's going on. Put it all together, and this not only costs us money, it puts us at a tremendous competitive disadvantage. And in many cases, as our poll question suggested, the core of the problem is that we just don't have the reporting tools we need to be able to serve up what data we do have out of our AP department. When we use static reports like an ERP system or a spreadsheet, that in many cases doesn't provide us with the ability to drill down into our data, to be able to identify root causes of exceptions and other issues. There's limited customization, particularly when it comes to spreadsheets and ERP reports. And that makes it hard to be able to track the KPIs as they evolve, as our business grows or the economy changes. What's more, manually generating reports takes a lot of time. In many cases, it's an afterthought in our business. A stakeholder from some part of the business comes and says, hey, I'd love to get a report on this. Who has the time? Today, AP professionals are typically burning the midnight oil. And so that's going to delay decision making. Outdated reporting really makes it hard for us to get timely insights. Well, AP can solve all of this. With the right tools and the right practices, we can transform our accounts payable function into an enabler of real time insights. And it does it in four key ways. The first is AP automation centralizes all our information. It puts all of our invoice data into one cloud-based platform. So we have one single source of truth. And that eliminates data silos. So we no longer have this environment where invoices and invoice data might reside in separate laptops, PCs, spreadsheets, ERPs, and different sites. What's more, AP automation provides us with real-time reporting. From the moment an invoice shows up at your doorstep to the point that it's settled and reconciled, you're able to track it all the way through. And graphical dashboards provide you with the ability to instantly know where an invoice stands in the process, where you are with your key performance indicators. And then you can click and drill down into those data sources to be able to see the root cause. Tara, when you're talking to AP leaders, what is it about AP automation that gets them so excited from the standpoint of visibility?
Yeah, as you were talking, I was thinking of an example that I always hear is the distraction of like other teams walking by their desk or calling and asking the status of an invoice or a payment, right? Because that's like a real world example that happens all the time. Like I'm even guilty of it, right? That's just like the reality of the world they sit in, right? Because they have other stakeholders internally for the organization, right? A lot of consequences happen if you don't pay vendors, contractors, leases, supplies, like whatever organization you're in. And so when they're like, oh my gosh, I can go in one area to see the invoice, the approval, wherever it stopped in the workflow. Oh, we sent that payment. Oh, it came out of the bank. When they can see all of that, they're like giddy with excitement to be able to share that internally and have it at their fingertips versus like, let me get back to you. And it like breaks their workday, right?
Yeah, Giddy and accounts payable. Who thought we'd ever see the day when we'd have that
Yeah.
type of an environment? Well, indeed, AP automation can make your team and your stakeholders giddy with excitement if you're able to leverage your AP data. Let's talk about a couple ways of how we can do that. And one of the most interesting ways that we don't talk about a lot in AP automation is how it improves our cash forecasting. An AP automation solution like OnFaces allows you to capture accruals accurately in real time. How often are you asked, where do we stand with our liabilities? Where's our accrual reporting? This is an automated process. In many cases, it's on the dashboard. So the first thing in the morning, a controller or CFO can sit down with their cup of coffee, know exactly where things stand with accruals. What's more, with an AP automation solution, now you're easily able to anticipate upcoming obligations based on historical pipeline activity. What's more, you could take it a step further. AI solutions pour through your historical invoice data to be able to anticipate where your spending needs will be in the future and identify potential cash flow shortfalls. If there's a quarter where you have an unusually high amount of spending for the year, that could be something that the CFO and your budget leaders need to be aware of. It also allows you to align cash reserves with your payment schedules. So now when those big early payment discount offers come up, or when those big spending obligations come up, you're able to make more intelligent decisions about when should we make these payments based on where you stand with your cash reserves. And with an AP automation solution that's providing you real-time insights into where things stand with your invoice data, now, when you're talking about adjusting your forecasts, it's not something that's a burden anymore. They can be regularly reviewed and updated on the fly, and you'll have the confidence that they're accurate. But it's not just cash flows that can be impacted by AP automation. You could also leverage AP data to help you with your spend management. This is a pretty trendy topic these days, right? I want to better manage my corporate spending. And it really goes back to that 25% of spending that's unmanaged or undermanaged. Today, businesses recognize if they could just get control of it all or a good part of that 25% of their spending, now they're able to really affect big change. And so one of the ways AP automation can do that is by helping you identify overspending trends early. When those invoices are processed, now you'll be able to bang that data up against your department's budgets and be able to identify those cases of maverick or overspending so that you're able to send a notice to your budget leaders and tell them they need to take quick action. What's more, or better yet, if you tie those invoices to a purchase order, now we can eliminate that maverick spending. We can make sure that the cases of overspending are much less likely to happen. AP automation solutions automatically allow you to also track spending by, say, a vendor, a product, a department, or even a project if you're, say, in the construction industry. Now it makes it easy to be able to time your payments, to be able to make sure that budgets are in track for different projects, and even the most complicated projects become a breeze. And all of this is done before it ever hits the ERP, so that there's no need to create convoluted tables to be able to track all of this. It's done for you automatically as a result of the data that's being captured in your invoice processing solution. An AP automation solution also provides you with the insights that allow you to get better visibility into how it is your suppliers are performing or how much money you're spending with a particular supplier. What this does is it gives you better leverage when it's time to renegotiate contracts with the supplier. If you're spending more than you thought with a supplier, maybe that gives you some more leverage or some more pricing power. If your supplier didn't perform, well, now you have the data to back up your case. And finally, you can use those spend alerts to automatically notify budget owners when they're getting close to their thresholds. Budget performance is, of course, one of the biggest benefits of AP automation or the visibility that comes from an AP automation solution. The data that you get from an automated solution allows you to automatically monitor budget adherence, and you can do it every day, not just monthly or at the end of the quarter. And that allows you to spot those deviations faster, in many cases before they ever become problems. So now we're creeping up on that threshold. Hey, we might want to slow this down. Or maybe we want to make sure we push this spending to another quarter. It also allows you to provide leadership with instant budget status reports. So you better believe that senior leaders were looking for visibility into spending over the past couple quarters when the markets were having their topsy-turvy events. This could allow them to instantly know exactly where they're standing with their budgets. And finally, with the data provided by an AP automation solution, now you can have rolling budget updates that incorporate the most current AP data. There's no more guesswork, no more relying on budget leaders to the word of budget leaders. We know exactly where things stand. Today, fraud remains at an all-time high. The FBI, Interpol, states attorneys general, they're all sounding the alarm. They're saying that the way that we're doing things in accounts payable is putting us at higher risk of fraud. Today, fraudsters are using tools like artificial intelligence to have increasingly sophisticated and increasingly brazen schemes. Well, AP automation helps level the playing field. It helps us stop fraudsters in their tracks. And it does it by pouring through historical invoice data to help us identify unusual vendor payment patterns that could signal fraud. If Tara usually sends me one invoice per month, why do I have 10 invoices from her in my queue? If her invoice is usually for $100, why is this invoice for $100,000? These are the types of trends that the solution can automatically identify, flag, and send for more critical review. What's more, because we're now freeing up our time from mundane, repetitive tasks like keying invoice data, now we have more time to actually scrutinize these anomalies. And we can also use the same technologies to help us track compliance with things like contract terms or, say, regulatory compliance. We're able to look for those anomalies or those events that don't align with things that we've seen in the past. All of this is flagged for before payments are ever made. We're also seeing more and more cases of duplicate invoices. This is in large part because now suppliers are sending us invoices via email, right? In the past, it was hard to send a duplicate invoice through the mail. It actually required quite a bit of effort and intention. Well, now that all we're doing is pounding a send button on an email, many suppliers will send the invoice multiple times until they get paid. Maybe they'll send it to multiple people. And if you don't have one aggregated centralized system for being able to review these invoices, it's easy for things to slip through the cracks, even in cases where suppliers are just trying to get paid and don't have nefarious intentions in mind. We don't want to put money in the audit recovery company's pockets. We want to stop these duplicate invoices before they're ever paid, and an automated solution can help you do that. What's more, automation can also help us monitor bank account change requests for potential scams. Today, most fraud schemes start with phishing and business email compromise. And what we want to do is look for those cases where fraudsters are trying to submit phony bank account change requests to trick us into redirecting payments to an account they control. All along the way, an AP automation solution helps us address the types of challenges that we're facing in today's data-driven AP environment. Intelligent data capture provides us with faster, more accurate data availability. Information in many cases is captured faster, more accurately, and without human intervention than ever before. AI-driven coding and routing eliminates manual delays in processing. Now that information is getting downstream faster, so it's giving us that 360-degree view of information, and we're able to take faster action. Integration with our ERP or accounting software provides us with that single source of truth, that pane of glass that Tara was talking about. Real-time dashboards and analytics empower proactive decision making, not just in our department, but all across the organization. We can empower folks in procurement and treasury and even the C-suite to be able to act on the information that they're seeing. And visibility into your payments, hopefully you're not paying with checks, is going to improve cash flow planning. It's going to allow you to optimize your DPO, capture more early payment discounts, earn cashback rebates, and strengthen your supplier relationships. And that brings us to our third poll question, which is now displayed on your screen. This time I want to know which of the following would deliver the biggest impact to your AP team? Which of the following deliver the biggest impact to your AP team? Is it intelligent invoice data capture? Is it AI-driven coding and routing? Is it seamless ERP integration? Is it real-time dashboards and analytics, or is it payment visibility? Take a moment to respond to the poll question now displayed on your screen, and we'll discuss the results in just a moment. Tara, it really does start with that intelligent invoice data capture. I mean, that's the on-ramp for this information. What are some key considerations when I'm looking for an invoice data capture solution that I should keep in mind?
Yeah, I think something to keep in mind is auditing like your type of invoices, right? You have PO based, non-PO, what that looks like. We have plenty of companies that still get handwritten invoices, right? Like, how are those processed today? Can you find a solution that can process those? So, really taking a step back and understanding kind of the lay of the land, right, of your invoices and what percent are in like certain types of scenario kind of buckets. That's where we typically start. It's not just like, oh, we process 10,000 a month. It's like, okay, what do those look like, right? Because that's what the building foundation of then you get to the coding, then you get to the routing. So you really have to take a hard look at your different types of invoices and what those look like, and really the best solution that can get you to the close as possible to accurate and complete. So.
Great advice. Let's see how our attendees responded to our poll question. We asked you, which of the following would deliver the biggest impact for your AP team. 29% of you identified AI-driven coding and routing. Man, general ledger coding is a burden, and we find that people can get awfully sloppy with it. 24% of you identified ERP integration. Perhaps you've automated your AP process and you're keying that data into your ERP or accounting software. You shouldn't have to do that. 24% of you identified real-time dashboards and analytics. It's not enough to capture the data. We got to be able to serve it up. Put it in context, and 18% of you identified intelligent invoice data capture. So how do we go about choosing a solution that's going to turn us into the information powerhouse that we were meant to be? This first step is to do exactly what Tara just suggested. Way to steal my thunder. You need to understand where you are before you're planning to go. I liken this to hopping in your car without knowing where it is you want to go. And you end up somewhere. I suppose it's the right place, but maybe not. And you certainly don't want to let somebody else, certainly your teenage kid, tell you where it is you want to go. And so what you want to do is you want to do an assessment of where you currently stand. You want to document your current processes and data flows. And if you haven't done this since the shift to remote and hybrid environment, it's long overdue. Fact is you probably have some new processes in place and they might not be the most efficient. What you want to do is you want to identify some gaps in your visibility and control. Back in the day when everybody was in the office, Tara, what I used to tell folks to do is to go to their local office supply store, get one of those giant brown paper rolls of paper, the kind you use on like bulletin boards, spread it out over the boardroom table, get the thickest, most toxic smelling markers you could find, and gather everyone around and start drawing out all your workflows. Identify who the decision makers were at each step, and then to discuss what steps were working and which ones weren't. This was always eye-opening for AP departments that did this, because in many cases what they'd find is there were things they were doing that they didn't know why they were doing it. It was legacy. Well, this is what Linda told me to do when I was hired 23 years ago. Well, why are we doing this? And so you want to identify those gaps in visibility. You want to involve your stakeholders in the organization. What information would you like to be getting from us that you're not? What's more, once you've determined the processes you're doing, you want to be able to start using some KPIs to benchmark yourself against industry best practices. How long does it take other organizations to approve an invoice? And you want to understand from stakeholders what reporting they'd like to get out of your department that they currently don't get. With all that information in hand, now it's time to be able to define your strategic objectives. Understand what it is you're trying to achieve through AP automation and improve your visibility. And start with the company-wide objectives. Understand what it is the boss wants the business to do, and then try to find the delta between how AP can support it and AP automation can help you drive it. So you want to prioritize things like visibility, forecasting, compliance improvements. These are the things that every company's after. You want to set measurable success criteria. Do we want to process invoices faster? Do we want to be able to forecast our cash more accurately? Do you want to speed up the month-end close? Whatever those goals are, put them in writing and be able to make sure that they're part of your goals. You also want to ensure that you have goals for both long-term and short-term wins. There's things that you're going to want to accomplish today, and then there's things that the business is going to want to accomplish over time. Make sure you capture all of those. Only now after you've assessed your needs and you've set your goals, you're going to actually go about calling a vendor. Now we're going to go look for the right technology. The table stakes is integration with any of your existing systems. The last thing you want to do is put in an AP automation solution that generates more rework, more data silos, and more data latency. Make sure it integrates with whatever ERP, accounting software, and financial systems you currently use. I also want you to make sure the solution focuses on things like automation, analytics, scalability. How well does it capture data? How does it serve that information up? And can it do it at scale? And can it adapt as my needs change? If my invoice mix it changes over time, how hard is it to set those up in the solution? Does it use AI to be able to go find information on an invoice automatically? Or do I need to set up templates that are going to keep being a burden over time? You also want to make sure that prospective vendors offer strong training and support. Adoption from your frontline staff is a killer here. So you want to make sure that you absolutely have a solution that your team is going to use and that your vendors are going to be able to count on over time. And finally, I want you to be able to evaluate vendors for their adaptability. Today, technologies are changing, market conditions are changing, and our demands on risk and compliance management are changing. Does your prospective vendor have a track record in accounts payable? Do they speak your language? Do they have a product roadmap that'll support these technologies moving forward? And how well will their technology be able to support remote and hybrid work? What's more, I want you to engage stakeholders early, involve finance, procurement, and IT in your planning. That'll help you build consensus, identify your needs, and then I want you to secure leadership sponsorship. Go to the CFO and show them how this is going to support their objectives. Remember, the three things that keep a CFO up at night: cash flow analysis, liquidity management, risk management. AP, the visibility from an AP automation solution supports all of those, and you want to make sure that those are front and center in your business plan. You want to make sure you build cross-departmental buy-in so everybody knows how this is going to benefit them. Budget adherence is something everybody could get behind. Capturing more early payment discounts, well, that's going to fire up your treasury team. Be able to get better visibility into spending. Procurement's going to be on board from the go. This is the stuff you want to make sure they understand is on the table. And finally, you want to identify some change champions. Those people who are going to be cheerleaders for your initiative are going to be able to rally the troops and train their teams. And next, once you have the right system, you've got approval. Now it's time to go. And now we're going to implement in phases. Start with quick wins. Think like an SEC football team. Schedule some cupcakes early in the schedule, right? Look for that low-hanging fruit. Make sure you've proven the concept. You get everybody behind you. You show the boss how smart you were. And there, from there, you expand into your more complex applications. You expand automation to cover all of your AP processes. You don't do it all at once, but you make sure you have a partner like OnPhase that can automate the entire end-to-end process. Continuously measure and optimize your AP process. You want to make sure you set those benchmarks at the beginning, and then it could shine a light on those areas where you need to focus more attention. And of course, adjust your technology. And then, as you learn your lessons, you document them. That brings us to our final poll question, which is now displayed on your screen. This time we want to know, what is the first step you are most likely to take after today's session? What is the first step you're most likely to take after today's session? Audit your AP process for visibility gaps. Start researching AP automation solutions. Schedule a meeting to discuss AP strategy. Build an ROI case for AP automation, or something else. Take a moment to respond to the poll question now displayed on your screen, and we'll discuss the results in just a moment. Tara, what would be your single biggest piece of advice to our folks today who want to get started on moving toward becoming an information powerhouse in AP?
I gotta go with audit. I gotta go with knowing your business inside and out, right? And doing that research internally, getting the stakeholders, making the business case, and really looking internally of what's working and what's not, right? And know that there's things that you probably can't see, right? We were talking about invisible, but do your due diligence because it'll help you in the end, right? You'll have a better go forward plan, whatever you choose, and getting to growth of what you want to see and getting to the insights that you really need for your business. So,
All right, let's see how they responded to our poll question we asked everyone. What is the step you're most likely to take after today's session? 55% of you said audit your AP process for visibility gaps. That is a great starting point. There will be obstacles along the way. That's inevitable with any project. So what you want to do is you want to make sure you have a plan for tackling them. You want to make sure that you build out those benchmarks so that you're able to measure your success. That's got to be for you to determine whether it's the percentage of invoices tracked in real time or the reduction in processing cycle times. Make sure you set benchmarks and goals and you track them regularly. So, what's the message we want to leave you with today? AP's role is shifting from tactical to strategic. Visibility is critical for organizations to improve their decision making, and automation is the fastest path to real time insight. If you're looking for more information on how it is you can turn your AP department into an information powerhouse, my friends at OnPhase would like to talk to you. Now, I know, Tara, that we're out of time for questions. We encourage you to submit them, and the team from OnPhase will respond to those offline. But Tara, I think there's some giveaway associated with today's webinar, isn't there?
There is. We will be sending out more resources. I know we're at time, like Mark said. So we have a lot more information and content you guys can rely on after the webinar. So look in your email tomorrow for all those additional resources. But with that, we'll also be announcing our winner of the Nespresso giveaway. I mean, you can always use more coffee. So we're excited to give that away. And like Mark said, please reach out to us with any questions that you guys have. I know a couple came in, so we'll definitely be getting back to all of you. And I just want to thank Mark for all of his time today and wisdom and experience. So yeah, I hope this was very helpful for everyone that joined. And thank you guys so much.
Thank you, everyone.